Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar on future proofing freight procurement with Michael Childs from Cardinal. We are starting in a bit. So we just make this as interactive as possible. What we would do is this is going to be a 40-minute session plus a 10-minute Q&A. So all of them are by default muted, just so that we are able to listen to Michael. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box or in the chat box. And we are recording this webinar, so feel free to share this with your colleagues in your organization if you find this webinar to be very useful. So a little bit about Cardinal. So Cardinal has been the biggest freight forwarding organization that has over 40 offices and over the globe and 6,000 plus clients. And it's been the largest employee-owned business where employees have a 68% stake in the group. And Michael has a very rich experience of over 15 years in the logistics industry, working in various customer facing and procurement roles. Recently, over a year back, he was also appointed as the chairman of the Partners Forum, a very unique initiative within Cardinal Group that we would be touching upon very briefly during the course of this webinar. Outside of work, Michael has been an avid vinyl collector and loves attending live music events. I've had a few interactions with Michael, and he has definitely been so knowledgeable and the most humble person out there. So, Michael, you started off as a shift running manager at McDonald's during your college years, and you went on to work for that particular firm for like 7 years. But now you're the regional manager of Cardinal Global Logistics. So, tell us about how you started and then how you grew into this role within Cardinal.
So my time at McDonald's, that was while I was studying at university. So it was a part-time job. And then for myself, our family's always been surrounded by shipping. My father was a shipbroker in the city of London. So throughout my life, I've always been surrounded by shipping and the industry. So it was always an interest to get into that business. But one of the things I wanted to do something a little bit different to my dad. So I ended up going into the container side of the business instead of chartering and what he did up in the sea. So I ended up with a local company, an MVOCC, who specialised in the Caribbean and Central South America, called Ocean Express. That was my first job. Basically just quoting customers, starting on a sales role. And then from then on, I kind of through sales, I worked at both shipping lines, worked at Yang Ming, and also some of the bigger MVOs as well. So Vanguard, I worked with Van for several years, and then some big MVOs here in the UK. Also worked with a freight forwarder as well, like a small size freight forwarder. And that was before I joined Cardinal, and then Cardinal have been 10 years next year. So it's my longest job I've ever had.
Yeah, that's the very longest stint, I would say. And Cardinal has been, about Cardinal here, right? Cardinal has been the first and the largest employee-owned business. So tell us a bit more about that and the reason why you think Cardinal chose to do that.
Yeah, so it was around about 18 months ago. The directors decided, well, we're looking to. So the directors were looking to change things up, and also just to realise some value out of the business. So what they did was they looked at various options. They could have sold the business to a larger freight forwarder, maybe got some investment from like kind of a private equity companies and release some money that way, but they wanted to keep the Cardinal name going and look at ways of how do we keep that name going. And one of the things was the employee-owned model, and it works for us. We're quite a people business, so it made sense that the directors sold 68% of their shares back to the employees. So now we're all partners within the business. So. Which is great, and it's kind of just like and like you said, mentions we're the world's largest logistics company that's employee owned. So there's quite a lot of pressure on us to make it succeed, but also it's exciting times.
Yeah. So you have also been you've been the chairman for the Partners Forum in the past 1 year, right? So when we say partners, the first thing that comes to our mind would be agents or carriers, carrier partnerships. But Cardinal has a very different definition to that. So would you like to cover more on that and how this works within Cardinal and what are your key, I would say, responsibilities being the chairman of the Partners Forum?
Yeah, so when we come, as partners, we own 68% of the business. We needed a voice within the business, so we looked at the trust who overlooked the partnership said, right, we need a group of individuals from various aspects of the business to create a forum, to be that voice, to offer suggestions and anything that as the partners want to bring up, we can then filter it through the forum. So myself, I'm the chairman of this forum. So we are the voice of the partners. We're the voice of the 68%. And yeah, it's new for us. It's quite a interesting thing. It's like I say, it's very new. There's no blueprint of what to do, so we're kind of making it up as we go along a little bit. But we've learned a lot in the last year. So I think, like, for example, the first time when we come together, we open up the floodgates for suggestions from our partners, and straight away we had 90 odd suggestions come through, and we had to answer all of them, and it was all quite overwhelming. So we kind of like looked at how we deal with that. So we're now working in a different way. We're looking at different ways of doing it. So we're in the process of changing that model. So we're looking at if a partner wants to suggest something to the business, they have to get another 10 partners to agree to it, to back them on that suggestion. And that suggestion has to either be for the good for the business, good for the partner, or good for the environment. And then what we'll do is, once they've ticked all those boxes, we'll then look at it as a forum. We'll price it up, see if there's a cost to it. We'll then price it up, and we can then pass that back to the partners to then decide if they want to take that further. So previously we did have previously we had a lot of stuff coming through, and we had to kind of filter out, and we had to feel like we was the gatekeeper, where probably we probably did it wrong at that point. But so moving forward, we're a bit more listening to the employees and dealing with them that way.
So how do you think this has really helped your employees, in bringing out these initiatives to Cardinal per se?
So yeah, it's just given us a bit of ownership as a business. We've all got our own. We've all got stake in the business now. So as long as we're employees of Cardinal, we own part of that business. So it's in our interest for it to do well, for it to grow. Not just on a monetary value, but on also just on what we can do for each other as well as partners. So some of the stuff we're looking at is like we're kind of looking at healthcare, looking at all stuff like that, which we didn't have previously, and now with the majority, we can put those forward, and we can have serious discussions about that.
That's a good thing. So the last few years, right, it's been really challenging in terms of disruptions that the logistics industry as a whole faced, right? So amidst all these issues, there have been a few freight forwarders, I would say, who are still struggling, to trying to keep up with the pace of the business. But Cardinal has managed to stay profitable and also expand its offices in a few more countries. So how do you think this was possible as a whole group? And why do you think, what different did Cardinal do that, it was able to manage to stay profitable in the industry?
It's a difficult one. I think, but for us, it was always it's always the people that have made the business, and like during COVID, that was a strange time for us. When it first happened, when everyone was in lockdown, we was really worried that the business was going to go that was it. It was there was no freight was going to move, and nothing. Very much we was very wrong on that. The market completely changed. So we protected everyone's jobs. So one of the things when COVID, we all went down to 4 days. We all kind of come together as a business and helped. And by doing that, we've kind of released kind of what it is with people being a people business. It's very much kind of like everyone's had their interest. They've always had their interest from the start. But it's just they've just always been, it's always been that kind of thing. And you have to be with our CEO Brian. He's very focused and he's very good at what he does, and he's very kind of like he's very good at keeping us all engaged, and bringing in the right people, having the right people in right places. So you can tell by us because our retention of staff is very good. It's very, very good. A lot of us are 10, 15 years plus, and we've built our careers here.
Yeah, that I'm going to actually touch upon that maybe towards the course of the webinar. So the rate fluctuations, right? Talking about the most important, it's like the most important or the most subject of contention is the rate fluctuation. So how have your team, your organization were able to adapt, and what kind of strategies do you think you were able to make effective in maintaining that kind of a resilience in the market?
Yeah, so we've always had strong carrier relationships, and we never kind of like we never turn any carriers off. We've always built those relationships up, and with those freight fluctuations, we had some very robust contracts we had in place, a lot of space guarantees and stuff like that in them. So we worked very, very closely on having those contracts, and just having that procurement team for us. Like for myself, I head up the export procurement, but we also have a robust import procurement team, both in Asia and in the UK, and they work all very closely together. Mm-hmm, so yes, it's very like it's the teams, and it's kind of like we've been just it's a bit of luck as well. To a certain extent.
Okay, so when we're talking about the structure of the procurement team, you're telling us that you have an export procurement team and an import procurement team, right? How do you come together as a strategic function within Cardinal, and how do you work together to make sure that you're different from the rest?
Yeah, so it's for us. We've always like most businesses in the UK, very much import orientated. We have a lot of import cargo. I think last year we were nearly 200,000 TEU inbound. So we then realised that we actually looked across the business and realised we actually got a lot of export business as well. It's probably 10 to 1. So it's looking at around about 20,000 TEU exports, but we're heavily relying on imports. But as a business, that volume is very attractive to the carrier on the export side. We don't deal with any scrap or anything like that. It's all FAK, and it's all good cargo. So it kind of made a lot of interest for the carriers to realise that actually we can help them reposition boxes to where they want to go. So we've as Cardinal, we've got a lot of brands within us, and we found a lot, especially on exports. Each brand was doing their own procurement. It was like, well, how do we bring all that together and basically kind of showcase Cardinal as a as one product. So it was suggested that we bring in like 3 key people, myself and 2 colleagues up in the north who controls certain bits of business, and we create an export procurement team on the back of that. And then on the back of that, we can then leverage our import. So our import contacts on the carriers, we can then leverage that on our exports. So it's been very good for us.
Yeah. So So procurement, as a procurement person, I know you know that you, as a Cardinal as well, right? As an entire Cardinal group, you have always been a digital first kind of an organization, right? So
Yeah.
what kind of digital tools have you implemented within Cardinal, and why do you think that scaling freight forwarding organizations have to look at these digital tools? Making these digital tools is the most important kind of initiative within an organization.
Yeah, so for us, it started probably 15 years ago when we kind of, probably more than that. As Cardinal, we was one of the first MVOs to offer an online freight calculator. Very much kind of like leaders in that on that side of it many years ago, and on the back of that internally as well, we went. It must have been over 15 years ago. We went paperless as well within the business. So we've always been looking at how we can digitalize everything. But even my office, I don't even have a filing cabinet. I've got no need for one because everything's online. So we've really kind of like used digital, used what we got to our best ability. And then on the procurement side, like we've got our own business analyst team. So on the back of that, we're using Power BI to give us all the information about what we're doing. I can sit in front of a carrier and I can sit there and say where I'm loading boxes, what ports I'm going to. I can then also go and basically tell you what volume I can literally drill it down to exactly what the carrier needs. Then on the back of that, using the likes of your services, Freightify, on the back, I can then look at the pricing and look at where we're at and how we can adjust that. So it's like, just give you a couple of numbers. Like we was looking at so on our Power BI, I can see straight away that we've on exports we've used nearly 30 different carriers, and we've served nearly 279 different ports, and we're loading at over 500 different load points. So I have those port pairings all set up within there, and I can check and I can work with the carriers and show them that. So we very much kind of like we've embraced digital. We're very much like, as a business, we're enhancing our offering to our customers. We've got our own in-house track and trace system that we've developed with our own in-house IT team. So, and it's all bespoke to us, and it all works well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how are you using these tools to, make your carrier negotiations, or even, trying to draw out pricing structures for your customers, for your unique customers, because you have 6,000 plus customers, right? How are you working with each of them?
Yeah. So we're using our Power BI software, and then also using Freightify, we can identify what areas where we go to, what port pairings we can offer. So we work closely with the carriers. We know with carriers, there are certain areas they want certain areas, like they might 1 month they might have a shortage of boxes in Southeast Asia. So I can sit there and they'll come to me. A lot of the carriers will come to me and go, right, we need boxes to Port Calais. I can sit there and go, right, yeah, we've done X amount of boxes to Port Calais this month. We've loaded them in Manchester, Birmingham. What do you want? And then they can price in accordingly. And it works for us. And like I said, we understand with carriers, there's no one fit for everyone. So we work with each different carrier to basically utilise what works for both of us. Okay, there are some areas where we've got a lot of cargo, but a lot of carriers aren't too interested. But in the day, they look at the bigger picture and say, right, we're supporting Port Calais, so therefore we'll help you on these services as well. And it works. And like I said, we speak to every carrier. We have a good relationship with all of them, and we find this. It helps our offering to our customers. We have that options, and we can play around with it.
Yeah. So you were talking about Cardinal being the people first kind of an organization, right? Which means people stay for like 10, 15 years in your organization, which means there are a lot of, you know, people who are not very used to using a tool. So when you were bringing in Freightify, a tool like Freightify, or your internal systems, or even BI for that matter, right? Power BI for that matter. How did you ensure you brought in adoption of these tools within Cardinal, not only within your teams in Cardinal, but also, how are you using these tools to transact with your agents, your partners, your carriers, or your customers outside?
Yeah. So for us, like as a business, we're always trying to make things better, trying to by introducing new technologies, and like Freightify for us has been a bit of a game changer. We're over a year in with you guys, and yeah, like I'll be honest, like the first 3-6 months we had a lot of internal struggles with some of our staff who liked the old way. I preferred to do it the old way. I had certain colleagues who were very kind of like very strict in what they do, and but it's like for us it was kind of like perseverance. Like it was like, give it a go, like if you've got any questions, come back. Like and fair play to you guys, you've helped with a lot of training, so a lot of the video stuff you can offer, and then the training as well, that helped from your team. And then it's like and again, and we had, like, to be honest, we had some people that was very resistant to it, and they're very critical, like quite critical of the system, because every time something it wasn't there for they wanted or something like that, they were, but those people are kind of like it's crucial to making sure it works. So there's always a bedding in period with anything new, and having those people that are critical of it, they're the ones that actually I kind of rely on the most, and was like they're the ones that kind of that use it to the max. So I had to integrate those people in. I had to kind of like, you have to really sell it internally, put it that way. So but no, it was a challenge, but it was once you get the right people, and like I said, you've got the right people, they're there for a reason, and they do embrace it, they do give it a chance, and like I said, look, there's certain things we've done in the past that it hasn't worked, but you learn from failure, you learn from your mistakes, but you need, for us, we need those people that are hypercritical of the system, and you win those over, then you've definitely won. So it's been good for us.
Yeah. So what is that aha moment, once you implement a tool, and then when is that you see that aha moment, and then you have that, okay, this has been a success. So how do you really measure that?
Yeah. So it's so for us, we're looking at, there's a lot of metrics we look at as well. Like for us, for procurement, we're always kind of looking at how the carriers are performing. We're always looking at, like, I have a lot of metrics in place to look at when they're leaving on time, what kind of, if they're not leaving on time, how many days. I've got all those reports, I can do all that. Then on the flip side, for our customers, I can look at what quotes we're doing, where the quotes are going to, and then looking at what jobs we're winning, what jobs we're not winning, and by looking at what jobs we're not winning, I can then see, right, where do I need to procure better, where do I need to work to have that. So the likes of like having Freightify, I can see where we're winning, what we're doing, and then I can then look at where we're losing, and what do we need to do to then get that better price to then service our customers. So it's like and like recently with Freightify, we can look at our win ratio, we can look at stuff like that. Currently we're around about 12% on the quotes. That's something that we want to improve. So how do we improve that? Is by looking at what we're losing, not necessarily what we're winning.
Yeah, so right on that. So when you're talking about the quote to win ratio per se, right?
Yeah.
What else do you think ties up to the overall success metric in addition to the quotes to win ratio? What else ties up to the overall success metrics you measure as a part of the procurement team? Because procurement is now becoming so strategic, right? So if you could touch upon that, that would be great.
Yeah. So it's, like I said, that's a big thing for us. Like for our win ratio is to look at where, like I mentioned earlier, is where we're failing on buying. But then we also look at we look at how our carriers are performing. So we'd look at from anything from foul collection, so any haulage issues from the start. So so one thing we kind of monitor, we look at as soon as we get a booking, we look at how long it takes for them to confirm the booking. We have a KPI in place where we confirm the booking within 24 hours. We're averaging around about 6-7 hours. But as soon as we go over 12, we've got processes in place to then chase that. And then we monitor that as well. So we look at what carriers are delaying, or what carriers are causing us slowing things down. So that's like kind of one of the metrics. And then we look at how their suppliers are working for them. So the merchant haulage their hauliers that they use. We look at who turns up on time, when do they, if they turn up at all. So and then we monitor that. And then comes to when we also monitor the sailing dates. So we look at when the vessel is due to sail, to when it actually sails. So we're monitoring that regularly. So we're looking at the performance of the carriers as well. So we're not just sitting there beating them up over rates. We're kind of giving them feedback of like why we can't use them on certain things, or what they're doing well, and and everything from down to when it arrives. We're still looking at that kind of data as well.
Yeah, so talking about carriers, right? So I have a very critical question here. So there are a lot of changes at the carrier's end with so much of advanced digitization that it's becoming extremely difficult to work with them. So what are some strategies you think from Cardinal side you do to ensure that you have that space allocation or even equipment availability, especially during, high demand season, or even during disruptions like this Red Sea, for example, or the Suez Canal, right? So what do you generally do?
Yeah, for us, it's like we said, like we're a people business, and we build relationships with key people within the carriers. Luckily, like for us, because of our volume, we get allocated a certain key contacts within the carriers. So some of our contacts we have, it's been very beneficial to us, and we maintain those relationships. We don't just hide, like it's not just on email or just on live chat or something like that. We're actively like spending time with them. Give you an example, like a lot of our main carriers, we're having regular, probably fortnightly meetings with them, it's on Teams or maybe in person, and we're going through those metrics, looking at how they're performing, what we can, and then we have those conversations as well about where they're looking for cargo, what they're doing. So we have those regular conversations, and we understand as well. We're not we don't beat them up over price all the time. It's not always about price. It's not always about it is about service. Like price is a massive factor. Of course it is. Everyone's driving that down, but we're very much we want to work with them. We see them like carriers are more than important than customers sometimes. Like I said, we've got 6,000 customers, only got 20 carriers that we deal with. So you start losing one or two carriers, so you don't have those relationships. It does cause issues like further down the line. So we're very kind of building on that, and we spend a lot of time with the carriers. So
Cardinal is a large group. So carriers generally, are looking forward to have that kind of conversations with, key people like you within Cardinal. But when it comes to small and medium freight forwarders, right, with my conversations before, I've heard them say that it's becoming very difficult to even reach carriers. So how do you think, or what would be your advice to, the small and mid freight forwarders out there?
Yeah, well, it's this. I'm going to go on a bit of a sell here. We service a lot of small to medium freight forwarders, and part of our role is to help them get to that point where the carriers get noticed. If we help them build a business by giving them the pricing that they need, and then they go alone, then we feel like we've done something right. And a lot of the time, those small to medium freight forwarders, they deal with us. Continue to still deal with us because they don't, like I said, they don't want that headache when dealing with the lines. It takes them a while to build up to that point where they can have that relationship. Any issue, like we know one of the biggest shipping lines out there, they're renowned for not being able to talk to them. A generic email address where we've got contact, I can give them a call and we can sort out problems quite quickly. So yes, it's kind of like so for small to medium, it's like it's kind of use the MVOs, the neutral MVOs out there, and build on it, and build on that, and use their buying power, use their. I'm not saying use Cardinal, I'm saying for any other MVO, just use their buying power and help you get to that point that they take notice.
So
you do find as well, it's like for us, we probably offer them credit where the shipping lines won't as well. So that's always a bonus.
Yeah, so it's pretty impressive, right? Honestly speaking, looking at Cardinal, you don't only, try to empower your employees, but you also try to give it back to the community out there, to the freight forwarding community out there. So coming back to the next question. So how do you generally, we're talking about carrier negotiations now, and you had given us a few strategies about that, but how do you generally approach the negotiations, not only with respect to carriers around GRI and fuel surcharges, but also, how do you approach conversations with your customers of these kind of changes in terms of GRI or fuel surcharges without really sacrificing your relationship with both? How do you really strike a balance with both carriers and your customers?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of freight forwarders out there probably agree. COVID has been great to help people understand these kind of GRIs. What we try and do is we're very transparent. As soon as we hear, we're passing that on to our customers. We're saying we're giving them information on it. We try and educate them as to why this is happening. A lot of times the carriers are just trying to make money, or they're trying to do this, but we're all businesses. We're all here to make money. But also it's like you look at the likes of the Red Sea and stuff like that. Yeah, there's more costs involved now by going around the Horn of Africa. There's more insurance risks now. So there's more costs involved to do that. So we kind of understand that, and we kind of pass that on to our customers and say, look, this is what it is. We'll work with you. We will try, and if we don't feel like they're just or they're worthwhile, then we will fight them. And so prime example was the US port strikes. When those charges come in, we were quite vocal about, didn't agree with them because they wasn't 100% sure if the port strike was going to happen. So so as soon as it got called off, it was straight away. It's like, you're not going to charge this, and they didn't. They all rescinded it quite fairly quickly. But you understand why carriers are doing it. So by understanding that, you educate your customers of why they're doing it as well. And yeah, it's like since COVID, they've kind of a bit more understanding, definitely. Before it was just, they're just trying to make money. But before they weren't making any money. So it's like they had to do everything they could to do it. So, but yeah.
Yeah, so talking about surcharges right here, Freightify has a surcharges suite that we are developing. So for the starters, we have now collated the entire surcharges in one place. It could, for all the existing customers of Freightify, you would be able to see that within your analytics reports dashboard here. But for the non-customers of Freightify, we are going to add in the link to the in the chat box for you to access the GRI report. It's free. We have comprehensive information about GRI, surcharges, port congestion charges, etc. So feel free, and we are also making sure to keep it as updated as possible, possibly every week, once in a week, or every 2 weeks, or whenever there is a change. So feel free. So going back to the question here, right? So procurement is becoming more of a strategic function. So with Cardinal, right? Primarily, how do you see it impacting the Cardinal's overall business strategy, and not only the strategy, but also how is it influencing the company's bottom line?
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of strategies. Yeah, but the strategy is very heavily import. So that's where a lot of our revenue comes from. So for on the exports, it's kind of like our strategy is to support that import. So a lot of the time is we have when we're negotiating with carriers on the import side, with then subsidising that with export volume. So we'll say we'll work with you. We won't just give you our import business. We'll also work with you on exports as well. And that kind of then gives you a lot better pitch. It's a lot more of the carriers find a lot more enticing. So it's very much work. They work hand in hand. So and we're finding out it's like for us, like I mentioned earlier, the export procurement it's been quite new for us. And like myself and my two other colleagues, we're only like probably 2 years into this journey, and it's really benefited. Like some of the carriers we're working with, it's really helped on the import side. So yes, we've kind of like with our strategy for like is kind of like is to support the import side, help them maximize what they can do on their side, but then also kind of like maximize what we can do as well, and it works hand in hand. Yeah.
So how do you think your procurement or generally the procurement side of things, right? How do you think it to evolve in the future, particularly with now AI coming into the fore? How do you see procurement evolve in the future?
Yeah, so like I said before as well, it's very, like for us, it's always about people. We're always talking to the carriers, so that relationship is we're never gonna stop that. But for like moving forward, like definitely AI is going to be a big factor. It's going to be more. It's going to help us negotiate better rates by using it to help predict market trends. We try and look at like optimizing carrier selection, and just general analytics. We'll be able to then do a lot quicker. So like at the moment, like for myself, I sit down with the carriers and I go through some port pairings and where we're up. Roughly where we are with the pricing. I kind of have to pull that data from various places. With AI, to be able to use, so you'd be able to put that in, that'll come up quite quickly. So I think we will be adopting it as and when it becomes more and more available. But then yeah, it's like definitely for the future, there's a lot more stuff just outside of that, like especially like I'm going to sound old now, but I'm saying like the next generation that's coming through, they're going to be a bit more. Going to be more like worried about the environmental impact of shipping and stuff like that. So a lot of the procurement won't be just revolve around best price and quicker service. People are going to be looking at how can we do it with less impact to the environment. We all know shipping is quite a big impact. So what can we do to make that less? And I think that's moving forward. That's going to be quite a big thing. And yeah, we are looking at options. We do look at that. We do offer like carbon footprint within all of our track and trace and stuff like that. But we do look at other options as well, like optimizing rail services and stuff like that, and giving that option to the clients. Unfortunately, that's those options are never always the cheapest. So it's finding that balance. But I think over time, carriers and the likes of us have got to start looking at these options and more viable, and the more we use them, the more cost effective they'll become.
Yeah, that's very true, Michael. So one last question here, right? So when what is the one thing or one approach you would be advising your of anyone? It could be your fellow procurement leader, or it could be someone who would want to become a regional manager like you. What is that one thing you would like to really advise someone?
That's difficult. Just one thing. I always find
it could be a bunch of things as well.
Yeah, for me, it's always been open and honest, being transparent. Like, don't try and play a game, because you very much quickly can be found out. So it's like and like, actually speak louder than words. So you do what you're asked of, and you do it well. Then that's always gonna benefit you, definitely.
Yeah.
That sounds like a cop out, that one, doesn't it? So, but
that's so true. At the end of the day, it's just being true to ourselves and being true to the work that we do. So that's what matters at the end of the day. So
yeah, being authentic, that's the big thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much for this conversation that we've had. So now moving on to the audience, we would like to spend some time here. Now is the time for the Q&A sessions. If you have any questions for Michael, feel free to add them in the Q&A box or in the chat box.
That's always a bit the anticipation, isn't it?
So I did see someone send a... Okay, I'm just looking at the Q&A box here.
Okay, I didn't...
So we have one from Anna Mena. Do you think pricing team and procurement team in a freight forwarder must be separated?
Pricing team, no, not at all. Not at all. Because the pricing team, yes, the pricing. So when it comes to pricing team, you want them to have you want them to know where they can go. If you once again, let's go back to being transparent of what we do. Like within Cardinal, we're very this is our buy rate, and we allow our sales team, our pricing team, to then price in accordingly. By having our metrics, we can then see if they're overpricing or if they're underpricing. We can monitor that, and we can have those conversations. So we work very closely with our pricing team. It's not we wouldn't sit there and go, right, we wouldn't want to try and predict the market, because a lot of the time they're the ones speaking to the clients, they're the ones on the ground, and they're the ones asking those questions. So we're very much like we work very closely with them, definitely.
Yeah, so we have one more from Anna Mina.
Okay.
How do you see the procurement in the consolidators LCL market?
Okay, yeah. So it's so I help procure our LCL rates as well. So it's for us. We once again, we don't rely on just one carrier for our services. So like for the Far East, we've got various different services to the Far East. We've got Shanghai, Singapore, Port Kelang, Manila as well, maybe. I'm just off the top of my head. But we share that between 3 different carriers. So we always have that option. So if one fails, or once again we're putting metrics against those. If one fails, we've got that option. We work closely with the LCL team, and also it just means that we can once again use that buying power for both. So we can use our full loads for LCL, and then that helps us. Yeah.
So there's also one more question here.
Yeah.
We have someone asking for this. What advice? So you mentioned that Cardinal has a digital first approach. So what advice would you give to companies who are starting on their digital transformation journey in freight forwarding?
So freight forwarder, definitely. For us, it was like when I joined Cardinal. I joined coming from a lot of a paper-based side of it, and when I joined, we was like, right, we're paperless, and I couldn't get my head around it straight away. I was like. How can you do that? Like, there's so much stuff you need to do. Like, and then within like a week, I was like, how do we do? Why are we not doing it like this the whole time? And it's very much kind of digitalizing our world, and starting off with, for us, it was doing it in-house, having that foundation of the guys using it, using the systems, using it to the maximum possibility, digitalizing everything we've got, which then helps us build our other systems. So by having everything digitalized, everything, so we scan all the documents when they come in, so they're all available online. So when people then can go onto our track and trace, they can go onto the file and they can see all the documentation, they can see everything. If we didn't have that in the background, that paperless, we wouldn't be able to offer that on the front end. So it's always like, for us, it was start that foundation from within the office, from the back end, and then it will then filter through to the front end.
Yeah. So during high volatility periods like the fuel hikes or the GRI, right? So how do you generally maintain flexibility in your procurement process? How do you bring in flexibility in your procurement process here?
Yes, be flexible. It's a difficult thing, because like when the rate validity comes in, it's you do find it's very unpredictable. But what we try and do is, and what we do as well is, when you look at what the carriers are doing now, there's a lot of spot rates, there's a lot of stuff like that. What we try and do is we try and have a lot more long-term contracts in place, with a bit of allocation on there. We have various carriers with certain contracts, with certain carriers we deal with on different trade lanes. We have different certain allocations, and so we kind of like, and we maintain those allocations. We always make sure that we're using it. So when it does come to a point when we need it, it's there for us. And these long-term contracts, we also, so the freight rates are fairly standard. So when a GRI comes in, they've got to then give us plenty of time to implement that. Like some of our contracts are quarterly, so part of the contracts is any GRIs we need at least 30 days notice. So we can then tell our customers there's no automatically, right, tomorrow there's a GRI. It's like, no, this is what we've got. So it's definitely with our long-term contract. A lot of our customers as well, they might be quoting day one, but it won't be till day 14 or 21 before they actually load that job. So we need to be able to give that flexibility on, given that validity on that rate. Which a lot of the carriers doing with the spot rates, they don't do that. So it's only for certain vessels. So it makes it, so that's where we can like help our customers as well.
There's this one question, I hope that had answered your question, by the way. So there is this one question by Sean, who is asking about how do you measure the success of your procurement team within Cardinal? Is it based solely on cost savings, or is there any other metrics that come into play?
Yes, which originally it was cost savings, but because it was very easy when you first bring in, especially on exports, to bring in a procurement team, you can quickly see an impact straight away. But then moving forward, it was like, what do we want to see? Like, and like any business, you want to see growth. So we kind of like one of the things metrics is seeing our TEU growth, seeing what markets we're coming into, what potential markets moving forward, identify those markets and work closely with the carriers to help develop them. Like prime example for us, we're working with some of the big carriers on liner agency stuff. So we're using CCA, so we can then use carriers out of some very niche carriers. So we're working with, we're trying to open up new trade lanes all the time. So part of the procurement team, the part of the success is being able to offer those new trade lanes and getting business on it.
Yeah. So that's so true. So we just have 5 more minutes before we close this webinar. So one final question for you, Michael. I think there's one by the name Ashwath who has sent this message asking this: with the increasing use of data analytic tools, how do you ensure that procurement decisions still align with the broader strategic goals of the company?
So say that again. What was the?
So how do you ensure that your procurement decisions still align with the broader strategic goals of the company?
So like for us, so there was just strategy like for freight forward. It's always growth and it's always different markets. So we always want to be. So part of it is having the procurement team in place. They can then offer. We can then offer those services. So for us, it's growing. It's growth, and how do we do that, and what do we do with that? So for trying to work like for the strategic side, it's like for us, our strategy as a business as well is there's not just there is growth. There's also like acquisitions and mergers and stuff like that. So a lot of the procurement. Help from our procurement is when we get an acquisition or something like that. That then feeds into maybe that potential, that business that we've acquired will then feed into the procurement, which then will then give us more options when it comes forward. So our strategy would be like, give an example, we might look at an Australian forwarder or something like that. So building into that would be then talking to the carriers about Australia and what we can do to incorporate that into the business. So yeah, it's quite a hard question, that one, actually.
Yeah. So I think we're almost at the top of the hour. I don't see any other questions here in the Q&A box. So wanted to thank you so much, Michael, for being not only our customer but being on this webinar as a guest and giving us some insights about Cardinal and your business and some strategies as well. And thank you everyone for being on this webinar. We hope that we were able to add value to your time. We would be sharing the recordings in some time. If you have any questions, you could maybe reach out to us at marketing@Freightify. Maybe I'll also drop in Michael Child's email later on for you to just connect with him. He's also on LinkedIn under the name Michael Childs. We will also share the LinkedIn profile as a part of the recording that you would be getting. Michael, you have any final thoughts from your end?
No, just thank you for having me. It's just been a pleasure. It's I hope what I've said has been of use.
Definitely.
I hope so. Yeah. And yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much, everyone. You have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. See you all soon. Have a great week. Have a great Friday. Take care and all the best.
Good guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Bye.